Volkswagen Golf Mk4 1.9 TDI engine. This video will show you how to test, fix or replace your starter motor. First, jack up the car, put it on stands. Don't use jack on its own, it's not safe. Put stands on the subframe and remove the undercover so you can get access from the bottom. It will be held on few screws on the sides like this. This particular car is missing undercover, so that will make my job a bit easier, but if you have one, just remove it. So let's open the bonnet and see what's going on in there. The starter motor is located just down there by the gearbox. Let's have a closer look. That's him. This is a solenoid, which is a part of starter motor. Starter motor is a little bit below it, so that's where it's located. And this is a cable, live cable, that comes from the positive terminal of the battery. And we're going to disconnect this battery now and take it out. To take the battery out, we're going to remove this 13mm bolt that holds the bracket that holds the battery, and then loosen these two 10mm nuts and take the leads off and take the battery out. That's a bracket out. Now we'll loosen these nuts. When you take leads off, make sure they don't spring back so you don't get any sparks. I'm gonna take this cover off because on this car is not attached to anything anyway. So now we can take this battery out. Yeah, if your plastic cover here is attached properly, don't break it. You don't have to take it out, just leave it there. Next thing we want to do is remove 4 bolts here that hold the battery tray. They can be 13mm, they can be 10mm. In this car they are 10. And then there is another bolt here, just holds to the air filter box. So remove these 5 bolts and take this tray out. Once you've done that, you can remove this tray. Leave these bolts inside so you don't lose them. All 4 of them. And this little one can go back. Now we have much better access to the starter motor. Starter motor itself has 2 connections. One is a big fat wire that comes from the battery that feeds the starter motor, and another little connector here that comes from the ignition switch. When you turn your ignition to start the engine, it gets powered here and it engages solenoid that starts the motor. I'm gonna take it out and tell you more about this later. If your car doesn't start, in most cases it will be battery fault. So before blaming starter motor, make sure your battery is charged and tested. If your battery is fine but starter motor still doesn't want to start the engine, first thing to do is remove these 2 connectors and clean them with contact cleaner and see if it helps. Maybe you have just rusty, like on this car, rusty bad connections. When you do anything to this wire, make sure that the other end of the wire on the battery is disconnected, because it's a positive wire from the battery. We don't want to make any sparks. So our battery is out, so we don't have this problem. Take this nut off together with the washer, and we can take this lead off as well. Give this contact good clean. Use some sandpaper. Also, there can be some. You can use some liquid contact cleaner till it's nice and shiny, and just put it back together and reconnect the battery and see if it helps. Regarding this little contact, on this car is custom made. As you can see, it's not original. Originally you would have like a little plastic connector like standard Volkswagen. In here we have just normal conventional connector, which does the same job really. I believe previous owner of this car has broke it and he just decided to go for this option, but it does the same job perfectly. It just sends the signal to the solenoid. So give this contact a clean. So if cleaning doesn't help, last thing we want to check before we blame the starter motor, we want to make sure that the signal 12 volts comes from the ignition key. So reconnect the battery and check if there's any power coming from this wire when you turn the ignition key in as you want to start the engine. You can use the voltmeter like this, put it in 20 volts, and when you turn the ignition key as you're trying to start the engine, it should show just over 12 volts. Connect one end of voltmeter to this wire that comes from the ignition key, and another one just anywhere to the car body, like it can be anything, just any metal part of the engine. So you need to get it to earth, and then ask someone, or if you can do it on your own. But if you do it on your own, probably instead of voltmeter it's better to use something simpler like little tester with the bulb. So when you turn the ignition key and you try to start the engine, and you can see a light coming out, so you know the signal comes from the ignition key. So that's the last thing to check. If there is nothing coming, there is no voltage when you're turning ignition key as you're trying to start the engine, you have somewhere broken wire, so you need to check that. If signal does come, so that's a problem with the starter motor, and we'll now take it out and play with it a little bit. Let's take this voltmeter away, and let me show you how to take the starter motor out. If your battery is connected, disconnect it again and take it out, because we are going to disconnect this live wire cable again. So with both connections of starter motor disconnected, we want to free up this area, which just holds few cables. This is the connector for reverse light switch. That's for some older gearboxes. Newer 1.9 TDI have different type of switch, so normally you probably won't have this connector. But if you do have it, just take it off. Then there is another connector. Disconnect it. Next we can take the other side of this connector out simply by taking it out of this bracket. Now we have to remove this plastic wire holder. It holds a bunch of wires, so all we want to do is just take these wires out one by one. Remember which sequence they are inside, so you put them back in the same sequence. Like that. There is a 13mm nut that holds this plastic wire holder. It's actually right on the top of the bolt that holds the starter motor. So let's remove that nut. I'm going to show you where it is. A little bit better for you. Can you see it from there? 13mm nut. Check it out. So we take our 13mm socket on its extension. This is the plastic bit we want to remove. Put it on that nut. and remove it. As you can see, this plastic bit is moving already because it's loose. And we can remove the nut. So once the nut is loose, you can then remove it by hand. That's the nut, and now you can move this plastic out as well. Take it out. That's the bit. Starter motor is held to the gearbox by 2 bolts, and we reveal just one of them. This one here. That's where the bracket was, so that's where the nut was going. So this bolt has thread on the other side. Let's have a look for another bolt. Second bolt is accessible from the bottom. So let's go under the car. So that's the wheel, and here we are. So this is the starter motor view from the bottom, and this is the second bolt that holds the starter motor to the gearbox, and we have a little 13mm nut also as the top one, but this 13mm nut holds the bracket that holds the power steering line. So let's remove the 13mm nut. Working under the car, make sure you wear your glasses. So once that nut is loose, you can take it off. And take this bracket off. And it reveals another bolt, second bolt of the starter motor that holds it to the gearbox. Both bolts are 18mm. They have this sticking out bit with the thread. That's why we want to use long, deep socket, 18mm. So that's the tool I'm going to use. 18mm deep socket that can take this sticking out bit and then break it loose. Once you break it loose, it should go okay with no drama. That's a long bolt, so eventually you take it out. And let's go back to the top bolt. Do the same to the top bolt. Same story as the bottom bolt. Once you got it loose, normally you can take it out by hand. So keep holding with your other hand starter motor because you don't want to drop it. There we go. That's the last bolt. Sometimes the starter motor can be loose. Sometimes you need to give it a little push. So now you can take it out. Ta-da! That's the bad boy. So let's play with it a little bit. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you Mr. Starter Motor. This is the motor itself. This is the sprocket that spins your flywheel, turns your engine to start it. And this is the solenoid. The solenoid has 2 connections. That comes from the battery, live wire, and that powers the motor. And there is a little connector here. Give you a better view. That's where you get signal from your ignition key. Solenoid is there for 2 reasons. First reason, when it gets signal from ignition key to start the motor, there is a lever. A solenoid pulls that lever, so the sprocket comes out towards your flywheel, so it can start the motor. So when your engine is running normally, this sprocket is not connected to the engine, so it only connects to start the engine and pulls back. And second function of the solenoid, when it pulls that lever to take the sprocket out, also it connects the internal switch to turn the motor on. So once it gets the signal, pulls the sprocket out and turns the motor on, so it can turn your engine. That's two reasons for the solenoid to be there. So when your starter motor unit is faulty, you can either have faulty solenoid, either faulty motor itself. So in this car, on this particular starter motors, you can replace solenoid, and it's cheaper option than replacing the whole motor. I've seen prices on eBay as I'm filming it now in 2016. So you can buy starter motor for 50-60 quid, and you can buy solenoid for about 15. Let's take our battery and simulate the process of how it works. This starter motor is in working condition. The whole purpose of the video is to show you how to take it out, how to possibly fix it or replace it if you need to, how to test it. By the way, under this video there's a link to description. Everything what I've done today, images, diagrams, tightening torques, you can print it out for yourself in PDF. So you're welcome. Let's test the motor. We take our jump leads and connect positive terminal of the battery to where the positive wire should go, as it was originally on the engine. And then negative, connect anywhere to the body of the motor, and then now it's connected. So to make it work, we need to send the signal to here, from positive to here. So what we can do, anything you can connect it with, try to screwdriver probably won't do. You can connect it with anything you like. I'm gonna use smart stuff, just a wire as a crocodile connector and a needle. So I'm gonna connect it to the positive side of the battery. And then we apply 12 volts to this connector, and you'll see the sprocket coming out and starter motor spinning like that. And this is how starter motor should behave, working starter motor. If you have faulty starter motor, then you can have few outcomes of this test. First is when nothing happens. If nothing happens when you apply 12 volts to this connector, that means definitely solenoid is faulty. And then you can test whether it's only solenoid or whole unit. So to test the motor itself, see if it works, just a motor without solenoid. There is another nut just below this original one. There is an internal switch which is switched on by the solenoid. So we can go around that switch and test the motor itself. So if you apply 12 volts to this bottom nut here, and you'll get your motor spinning but without sprocket coming out. So we go around the solenoid. Have a look at this. You see? Motor just spinning but not coming out. So that's how you know that the motor is working, and you can replace the solenoid and save some money. Let me give you a better view of these connections here. So that's where you test your solenoid. That's where the signal comes from ignition key. And that's the bottom nut. I'll take it off. So that's where you get the power from the battery. Internal switches connects this connection to this nut. So to test the motor itself, you just apply 12 volts here. Simple. Once you are done with your testing, now you know what's wrong with it. If it's a motor, if it's faulty motor, probably it's not worth fixing it. Get the new one, unless you know some incredible specialist who can fix it for free for you, so you can try to fix the motor. A solenoid can be, if the motor is working, you apply 12 volts, it does work, and you know for sure that it's only solenoid that's wrong. Nothing wrong with the motor, solenoid is wrong. So you can remove this solenoid by removing contact of it, 13mm bottom nut. Take it off, and then you can take the contact off here, and then it's held by 3 bolts, screws at the back. give you a better view. Unfortunately, I can't remove the screws. I've applied for some WD-40. I'll try to remove them, but I don't want to wreck them. They're too old, too rusty, but you know what you're doing. So this unit separately, sold on eBay widely. I don't think that many parts suppliers sell them, but you can, if you look for it, you can find it pretty cheap. So that's how you fix it. Now you put everything back in reverse sequence. Once you got your new motor or you fixed your old one, put everything back in reverse sequence. I'm not gonna bore you with that. All the useful information in the description of this video below, some useful links, some useful information. More stuff about this car, some other cars, see my website, wheelsandmotors.com. Thank you for watching. See you there. Bye.